I've always been keen on model airplanes, but my boss then pointed me towards some of his friends who fly drones. And that was really nice, very interesting. So I dropped suitable hints, and my girls bought me my first drone for my 60th birthday. When I got the drone for my daughters, I didn't touch it for about 3 months. I was just reading and going through the manual and so on, and it seemed quite overwhelming. You just have to get out there and start. So you can go to an open space, just play with the maneuvers. There are some videos which tell you what you can do as a start, what the controls do, how they control the drone. Then from there you go on to do additional maneuvers. I think within a matter of 3 months you should be up and flying already, no issues. Beyond that, you of course have to make sure that you're always aware of your situation or your environment, because in Singapore, being dense, you may find that your actual freedom to fly freely is limited. You have to watch out for buildings or trees, telephone wires, things like that. In Singapore, for example, you can't do waypoints, which is a structured, predetermined route, because it's so limiting. When the regulations became a bit more restrictive, where they said, if it's above a certain height, you have to get it registered, you have to apply for permits and all that. They started producing what's called sub 250 gram drones. 250 grams is the weight threshold for whether you need registration or not. So it gives you a lot more flexibility in where you can fly and so on. The other big advantage is that it's light, so it's easy to carry and travel with. Generally, I would say Singapore is sort of on the higher end of restrictions, partly because it's so dense and also because of the number of airports or air bases. If you look at the drone zones or no-fly zones map of Singapore, which is incidentally an official map app you can download, the whole west, north, east, down to Marina Bay is all off limits. So there are only a few pockets where you can fly, this being one of them, Pandan Reservoir. If you look at other countries, I think it's really down to making sure you do your research beforehand, just so to make sure that you're in compliance. With Europe, it's interesting. Once you get a permit or registration to fly, you can actually use whichever country you applied for in the other European countries as well. Cost-wise, Europe is about 30 euros for 5 years. Japan was like $25 or $30 for 5 years as well. So it's not restrictive in the terms of cost. It's really to make sure that you don't fall afoul of the laws and find yourself slapped with a hefty fine or even, in remand for a few days or whatever. My first drone, actually, the one that I was gifted by my daughters, it had a flyaway. It lost contact, it lost control, and it just disappeared. So that was a lesson learned. When you find that you're getting messages of disconnection, either intermittently or frequently, you better come back home straight away. It can be because of interference from RC, from Wi-Fi, and especially in Singapore because it's so dense, you will find that the interference factor is quite high. The other danger could be wind. Because we are flying very light drones, sub 250, they are more affected by wind than the heavier drones. So recently in Japan, I was flying and it was struggling to get back because of the wind was so strong. So then what you do is go down to a lower limit, a lower height, and then slowly bring it back. As I said, you just have to make sure you have enough margin for these type of circumstances which are unexpected. Now in Singapore, if it's above 250 grams, you should register your drone. That costs $25, and the validity is, at the moment, there's no limit to the validity, but it's per drone. Now some countries like Japan, they have a limit of 110 grams, lower than Singapore. And in Europe, irrespective of your weight, if your drone has an onboard camera, you have to register as well because of privacy issues. Then if you talk about software, if you're into video editing, photo or image editing like I am, then you'd have to cough up the money for a video editor. But luckily, there are plenty of free, very good video editing programs around. Of course, if you want to go for a course, a beginner's course, you can do that as well. Then you'd have to pay for that also. For me, I did everything myself. I watched YouTube, tons of videos out there. You can do it actually on your own. We went to a resort called Mataking. I've flown in Japan recently, in France, in Germany. So of course, nearer home, KL. What I've done is I'm on a forum for drone pilots, for DJI drones. And before I go to a specific country, I'll just do a query with the guys there. Okay, I'm planning to fly to Japan. You know, anybody been there recently? How was the application process? What are the good spots to fly in? Not necessary to join a club, because this community of pilots or drone pilots, they are very helpful. Best return for buck is batteries. Yeah. Just invest in more batteries. And then make sure you take care of them as well. With my current drone, the DJI Mini 3 Pro, I can get about 40 minutes. Now if I do more maneuvers, that of course comes down. Weather, some countries which are cold, battery life goes down as well. So varying factors, but rated time is about 40-45 minutes. You really build up your hand-eye coordination as well, situational awareness and so on. Then the next part of that was the video editing. I got into that after a few flights, and then I just posted on my own YouTube channel. On the other hand, some people like the action or the thrill of flying. So for that, you would go for a different type of drone, still has a camera, but it's called an FPV drone, which is more action-oriented. So you will fly as if you're actually within the drone with goggles and so on. This is a fantastic hobby, especially if you can travel to to other countries in the region, for example. You don't have to travel far. You know, Bali, Thailand, all these places, which can be less restrictive depending where you fly. So again, you know, there's more fun when you travel, so you can combine traveling as well as your flying of drones.